Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined this morning by a couple of Andrews, Erickson and Cooper. Andrew Cooper joining us from Fantasy Alarm. Coop, thank you for making the time. I've been thanking everybody all season long. Again, I know it's super busy this time of year. We are talking today some week 4 buy low, sell high, wide receivers. We're going to go through some of the most traded guys at the position. Actually happens to be a couple of rookies. So it's that time of year where people are starting to see if maybe they should be selling high on the rookies. And then we'll get into your guys' picks for the buy low and sell high wide receivers that people should be targeting in trades. We will jump right in here. We will start with those most traded wide receivers. And number 1 on the list is Jordan Addison, rookie from the Minnesota Vikings. So, Coop, I will start with you. Buying, selling, or holding on Jordan Addison right now?
This is the exact kind of guy that you buy. You buy this guy because even though he's getting the targets he is and he looks as good as he does, he actually hasn't been fully unlocked just yet. Like, when you look at rookies, a lot of times they don't pop right away, and we say it, but when you go and pick the individual examples, look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was useless for 6 weeks his rookie year before things changed. They switched over to Ben Johnson. His role changed. He really popped off. Look at Odell Beckham Jr. He was hurt, came in, started slow, crushed. Mike Evans even started slow as a rookie, even though he was a high-end first-round pick. Crushed, right? Jordan Addison right now, he's still behind KJ Osborne in snaps, and it doesn't even matter. He's just a better player. He's getting more targets already. And because this team paid Josh Oliver an ungodly sum of money for some reason, and because they use CJ Ham, it consolidates the targets among the top couple guys. So the moment that actually does flip and they finally just say, hey, you know what? You're going to just play more snaps than KJ Osborne, which has not happened in a game yet. That's when it's fully wheels up for Jordan Addison. And God forbid anything happens to Justin Jefferson or TJ Hawkinson, because look at the targets those guys get. If those goes back into the pool, Jordan Addison is going to get an absurd number of them. So he's basically a double handcuff plus that has standalone value and could just flip the script with KJ Osborne and become a high-end guy right from the rip. So right now, Addison, I already have a lot of them, but I'm looking to get more.
Yeah, you mentioned the guys, first round picks who started slow and then were league winners. His teammate, Justin Jefferson, it was the same thing. It was like week 3 on, he was the best wide receiver that year, essentially. And but those first couple weeks, he did nothing. So we've seen it on this team before. Erickson, what do you think? Buying, selling, or holding?
Also buying Jordan Addison. I think that even though he had a quiet week 3, ran a route on 80% of the dropbacks. Like, his route participation has just increased a little by a little every single week, so they're getting him more involved. And as I mentioned before, this Vikings team is 0-3. Going to shake things up. Like, you got to change things if things aren't working, you're not winning games. And, what do you know? Like, let's get our first-round pick more snaps. Seems like a logical thing to do when your team is 0-3. So, yeah, I definitely want to buy Addison as well.
Yeah, a clean sweep for whatever it's worth. I also am buying. And like Coop, I have him in a lot of places already, but I would love to have more. I'm a huge fan. So we're going to do some sort of player comps here. Would you trade this person for Jordan Addison or Jordan Addison for this person? These are roughly along the same rankings as where these guys are in their rest of season rankings. But again, when we're kind of all in the consensus of we're all buying, I tend to assume we're going to say yes to all of these, or I guess rather no for all of these because of the way we're asking the question. But would you guys trade Jordan Addison for Gabe Davis, Coop?
Absolutely. I mean, Gabe Davis, I was shocked that the Bills didn't go out and get another wide receiver, because to me, Gabe Davis feels like the perfect next man up, like the 4th wide receiver on your team, but like a Zach Pascal even. I mean, that's his best comparable player on Player Profiler. I was just shocked that they didn't go out and get somebody. They did trade up for Dalton Kincaid, but they're not really using him the way that I think they should. So yeah, Gabe Davis is an easy trade for me for Addison.
How about Nico Collins?
So I can, a little foreshadowing here, but Nico Collins is actually my sell high wide receiver. So we can get into Nico when we get to that segment, right?
Easy pick for you here. And then George Pickens.
Yeah, I mean, Pickens, he's an exciting player, fun player, but I just trust Kirk Cousins more than I trust Kenny Pickett, right? And Deontay Johnson's going to come back at a certain point, and that's a guy that's gotten 140 plus targets 3 years in a row. I don't think that just goes away. So I would move Pickens for Addison.
Erickson, any of those 3, Gabe Davis, Nico Collins, George Pickens, or are you taking Addison ahead of all of them?
I'm taking Addison probably ahead of all of them. I think that Pickens is probably the closest guy for me, just because I've liked what I've seen so far with him as the wide receiver 1 in the offense. But like Coop mentioned, Deontay Johnson is probably going to come back after their team's bye week in week 6. And then is Pickens now descending? Like, is he now a depreciating asset? Whereas we're talking about Addison, it's all about the future. Like, it's all about reaping the rewards when it matters most, especially if there's an injury to one of the top guys in Minnesota. You're going to see Addison just absolutely blow up, especially with these rookies. Rookie receivers tend to hit later on in the season anyway when you're winning your fantasy league championships versus George Pickens, who has probably more value now, I would say, but down the line, it may not be the case. So again, if I'm like hurting at like 0-3, I probably want to keep Pickens just because he's the wide receiver 1 right now. But if I feel good about my roster and I can afford to sacrifice some early value for some long-term value down the line, I think I'd probably want Addison.
If you guys want the upper hand in every trade, you need to check out our trade analyzer at fantasypros.com/myplaybook or on the Fantasy Football My Playbook app. Instantly see who wins any trade and how it shifts the balance of power in your league for the week, rest of the season, and even beyond for dynasty leaguers. Stay ahead and play smart with the trade analyzer on fantasypros.com/myplaybook and on the Fantasy Football My Playbook app. Guys, let's get to the other rookie wide receiver that's getting traded a lot right now, and that's Zay Flowers. So, Erickson, I'll start with you this time. Buying, selling, or holding on Zay?
Can you buy Zay Flowers? Like, I didn't. I mean, I will be first one in line at the flower shop.
People are trading him. He's high on the list of most traded receivers, so it is happening.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm definitely buying Zay Flowers. Like, I don't know what else you've wanted to see from a rookie wide receiver drafted in the first round, except go out and have a 30% plus target share in his first 3 games. Like, this is who they're trying to get the ball to in any which way they can. I know week 3 wasn't in love with the usage because it was just so much underneath stuff, and Flowers just didn't have that marquee, he broke off a tackle and ripped off a 20-yard run. He was just kind of contained by the Colts defense. Give them some credit. They were tackling Zay Flowers, and they just weren't pushing the ball downfield, whether that's because of the injuries, because of the weather. I mean, Flowers can go downfield. We saw it in week 2 when he made a great downfield catch, so he can win, I think, in all phases of the game as a receiver. And this was the theory going in. Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr. Guys can't stay healthy. Oh, what do you know? They're both already hurt. It's week 3, guys. Like, and they're all hurt already. So I don't envision them really having big roles or being a thorn in the side of Zay Flowers. You like that pun there? Very, very good. So I think that Flowers is just a great buy. And over a lot of other veteran players that we think we know who they are, Zay Flowers is still a guy that we haven't even potentially seen his ceiling. Like, the Ravens offense is still kind of figuring things out, as we mentioned. Still injured, especially across the offensive line. So once they get cooking, I think Flowers is just going to increase in value. So I think that buying a first-round rookie receiver that's had a 30% target share over the first 3 weeks is just good process, because I think things are just going to get better as the season progresses.
So what do you think, Coop? Do you also have a rosy outlook on Flowers?
Stop. You guys need to stop right now. Cut that out right now. But no, I am down to buy Flowers, and especially in full PPR. That's the thing for me. You mentioned that he can go downfield and he will go downfield, but he is a low ADOT guy so far. I think his ADOT is like 5, and it's not going to be 5 on the season. That's crazy low, but I don't know if it's going to be like 13 like some of these other guys. So I look at the format and make some of those decisions. In full PPR, you go out and snag them anywhere. I don't play standard, but if you do play standard, these are the guys that in those particular formats aren't amazing. But if you do play standard, I would suggest to cut that out as well. In full PPR, I'm fully in. Half PPR, he's probably more of a hold for me.
Okay, so we got some bigger names here than for the Addison segment. So would you trade any of these guys for Zay Flowers? Would you trade Tyler Lockett for Zay Flowers, Coop?
Oof, so that is a tough one, because right now Tyler Lockett has a great role, but there is always the risk that Jackson Smith and Jigba pops out and he flips it, and he becomes the full-time guy. I think it's going to JSN I comp to more of a Chris Godwin, where that's the career trajectory I have for him as Tyler Lockett ages out. And I think Tyler Lockett's birthday on Thursday, so he'll be 31 in two days from this. But for now, I think I'm still sticking with Tyler Lockett. But I can be swayed if one of you guys has an argument. I know you're a Ravens fan, and Erickson, you sound like you're pretty high. So what do you think? What do you guys think? Would you go Lockett or Flowers? That is one that I would say is very format specific as well. Whereas if it's full PPR, I might go Flowers. Anything else, I might go Lockett.
Yeah, I would go Flowers just because I have way more confidence in him being the top target in his offense, because he's even with Mark Andrews coming back from after
week 1.
He
is the top target.
Yes, he's been even
target.
with Andrews back. But what do you think, Erickson?
No, I'm from the Zay Flowers side. I think that just betting on the youth makes more sense. Again, Tyler Lockett's going to turn 31 years old. Like, is his outlook going to be better or worse as we progress through the season, as they start to get these rookies amped up more? Jack Smith-Njigba is going to have a bigger role as the season goes on. Like, they have an early bye week that we talked about in week 5. We usually see this every single time with coaches and offenses. They involve their rookies after their bye week. It's like, hey, we've got to get JSN more involved. Like, we're going to hear reports about that coming out of Seahawks camp. I can almost guarantee it. And Lockett this year through 3 weeks, he leads the team in targets, but he has 103 receiving yards. Like, that's it. Like, DK Metcalf has 234 on less targets. Like, besides Lockett's 2-touchdown game in week 2, he really hasn't done that much. So are we starting to see the age creep in a little bit here where he isn't as efficient as he's been in past years? And I don't think that's shocking. Like, he's getting older as a receiver. And if JSN is pushing him, then you could see Lockett as someone that's depreciating, where Zay Flowers, I think, is a guy that's just going to increase in value as the season progresses. So I want to be chasing that tailwind and not being held back by a guy like Lockett.
Just never underestimate Pete Carroll's ability to just stick with his guys irrationally, no matter what, right? Like, I've seen Chris Carson fumble 4 times in 3 games, and I think his snap share went up the following week. So that's your very rational argument about the most gum chewing, butt slapping, irrational players coach I think I've ever seen. So that's the one caveat on that one. So.
A couple other receivers I want to ask you guys about here. Would you trade Christian Watson for Zay Flowers? Obviously, we haven't seen one of these guys in the field, Coop.
For me, I mean, just the fact that right now in a vacuum, you can call it even at best. Like, I can't put Christian Watson ahead of Zay Flowers regardless right now. And Watson's dealing with a hamstring, which is the scariest injury for wide receivers. It's a huge bundle of muscles that can be hurt in a million different ways, and we never really know what's going on. So for me, I couldn't possibly move a guy like Zay Flowers with his target share for a guy who's dealing with this injury and coming into, we like the player and we like the quarterback, but we still don't know for sure how it's all going to shake out. So for me, Zay Flowers as the target leader, you have to just keep him. Or if you can move Watson for Flowers right now, I would do that.
Yeah. And then how about this last one here, Coop? Michael Pittman. Would you trade him for Zay Flowers?
See, I love Michael Pittman. And again, this one might boil down to format, but Michael Pittman is a guy. He led the entire league in wide receiver snap share last year with like 98. This guy, whatever, he plays every play. This week they played 84 plays. Guess how many plays he played? 84.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, he's just out there every single play. He's locked in as the number one dog. So I think Pittman, again, format specific for me. Pittman, he runs higher A-dot routes. He's out there every single play. He's the top wide receiver on his team. So I'd probably go with him in standard or half. But I mean, in full PPR, Zay Flowers really could be an Amon-Ra St. Brown type guy if his target share holds, because Amon-Ra St. Brown, look at what he's accomplished. His A-dot in both his first 2 years, only 7 yards. And he still went out and was a wide receiver 1. So A-dot's not the end of the world, especially in full PPR. So I think you got to go Flowers there.
Erickson, what do you think about those last 2 names? Christian Watson, Michael Pittman. Either of those guys are you trading for Zay Flowers?
The Pittman one's probably the closest one for me. And I think that if you were playing in a half PPR, I think it may be a slight edge towards Pittman. But I think that all things being equal, I think I still want Flowers. He's the better quarterback. I mean, one of them has Lamar Jackson. And I love Anthony Richardson. I think he's shown a lot already just in 2 weeks of play. But I think Lamar is still way ahead of him as a passer. And I think that just makes Zay Flowers potentially have a higher ceiling. And I do like Josh Downs too. Like, Josh Downs has showed a decent amount as a rookie in himself in the Colts offense, whereas Baltimore, look, these other receivers they're already hurt. And I just don't think they're going to have bigger roles, even though Mark Andrews is still there. I think Zay Flowers is still the guy for Lamar Jackson.
I would love to see, I was just going to say, I would love to see Josh Downs get the Keenan Allen treatment or the Cooper Kupp treatment, where it's Alec Pierce coming out for 2 wide receiver sets. Then it'd be wheels up, man.
Alec Pierce has got to get his cardio in, though, dude.
Right, exactly. The all exercise team, man. He's just out there hanging out, dude.
Yeah.
He's another dude that played. In week 2, he played every snap, and I don't know, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, just on Downs, I watched every snap of that game, obviously, and he was the guy I felt like they were looking at on third down even more so than Pittman had some big plays. He's obviously really, really good, but Downs was a guy that they seemed to trust, pretty quickly into his career here. Let's get to our buy low wide receivers, and Coop, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so for me, I am buying Jaylen Waddle if you can get him. I know that people are looking at the Dolphins offense, which he didn't play this week, so he wasn't part of that explosion. But they're looking at the Dolphins offense and they want pieces of it. I think the folks looking at Waddle, they might be saying, okay, Tyreek Hill's the top guy there. They got all these other weapons. You might be able to pry him away. And a guy like Waddle, what people don't realize with this offense is that you definitely don't have to be the top dog because of the way it's set up. You look at the 49ers, right? How much they use Kyle Juszczyk. They use him for literally half the game. That means there's no wide receiver 3 that plays even close to a consistent snap share, highly consolidates the targets among the 2 wide receivers and the tight end. This Dolphins team literally is the same offense. It's the same coaching tree. They went over there. The very first thing they did was get the 2 most important players to that scheme, right? You have Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco and you have Trent Williams, the left tackle. They went out and paid for the most expensive tackle you could get on the market in Teron Armstead, and they brought in Alec Ingold to play fullback. The moment you get that fullback in there, it consolidates the snaps on the top 2 wideouts. It's going to be Tyreek Hill. It's going to be Jaylen Waddle. And when McDaniels got there, we talk about ADOT. Jaylen Waddle had a 7-yard ADOT as a rookie. His second year jumped up to 13. He's a full outside flanker now, and the ceiling for this guy is tremendous. So if I can go out and get him for not even buy low, but what his original cost was, like I was taking him in the second round, and if I could take a second round caliber guy and swap right now for him, I'm doing that. So give me all the Waddle, give me all the pieces of this Dolphins team.
I was going to say, utterly absurd that they scored 70 points and didn't even have one of their elite wide receivers on the field. I don't know if that says more about Miami or Denver, probably a bit of both. Yeah, Erickson, I assume you're still high on Waddle also.
Yeah, I mean, there's like maybe 10 receivers I would take over Waddle like rest of season, and everyone else I'm like straight up I'd take Waddle like over basically the wide receiver 1 tier, because he's just like, it's weird because he's being overshadowed by basically every other Dolphins player. But during the season, draft season, you could have argued that Jaylen Waddle could have been the highest scoring Miami Dolphins player in fantasy, and I would have been like, I can see that happening. And because it hasn't happened yet, I think that he's just not top of mind. Everyone wants every other Dolphin except Jaylen Waddle, when that's the reason to buy and strike a deal now.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that game this week, by the way. Dolphins Bills is going to be awesome. Erickson, give me your buy low receiver.
So for me, it's going to the Jaguars offense, Calvin Ridley. After week 1, the victory laps were out. He burned a bunch of Colts DBs that were basically the worst in the NFL. And then after these next 2 weeks, it's like, wait, so were we right about Calvin Ridley? Like, is he back? Like, because he has sucked the last 2 weeks. Like, point blank, he's dropping passes, dropping touchdowns, not reliable. And I think that's had to do with like Jacksonville's offense just struggling in general, just not consistent. Doug Peterson in the post-game press conference when they lost to the Texans just really stride about like not being consistent enough on offense. Like, too many missed opportunities, self-inflicted wounds. And if you just watch the games, it's like, dude, Ridley's not playing well. Like, he hasn't been playing well the last 2 weeks. But the opportunity is still there for him. And I never really thought, I ranked Calvin Ridley kind of outside my wide receiver 1 tier just because I wasn't sure like if he was going to be rusty. And I think that's kind of what we've seen the last couple of weeks. He just like came out week 1, guns blazing, but then he kind of settled back down a little bit. The Jaguars are an offense is tough to parse through because they have so many weapons. But when you have bad games, you usually want to buy low on these receivers because we know he has a good quarterback. We know he's a good matchup this week. He's playing the Atlanta Falcons, the team that he drafted him. Like, this is going to be an emotional game, I think, for Calvin Ridley playing against his old team in London. If you guys remember when Calvin Ridley first left the Falcons, it was before a London trip. Like, so that was basically right before he abandoned, or I shouldn't say abandoned the team. He left the team. It was excused from the team. So I think that he's in store for a big game here, and this is when you want to buy low on Calvin Ridley because he still has a high target share in the Jaguars offense. We know that he has a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and we've seen his upside as a wide receiver 1. So I think that Calvin Ridley right now, he was someone I was always very price sensitive to in draft season. Like, if he was going in the second round, I was like, no, it's too expensive for me. But he was someone that I did like when he was out of value. And I'm kind of following a similar approach here with him in the trade market, where I've gotten some questions in the Discord about like, is it time to start panicking about Calvin Ridley? So for me, that's like, okay, there may be a buying window with back-to-back bad weeks when he's had the opportunities to really be a better player, but he's been dropping touchdowns, dropping first downs. I think that the Jaguars get right on offense this week. Doug Peterson retaking over play calling duties. I think they're going to get Ridley going, and I think this is a good opportunity to buy low on the Jaguars wide receiver one.
Coop, I want to get your opinion here just quickly on Ridley because I think he is such an interesting player to try to evaluate rest of season, given all of the offseason talk and the questions about Russ and how good he looked in week one, like Erickson alluded to, and how bad he's looked since then. So what do you make of Ridley right now?
Yeah, I mean, and Erickson summed it up perfectly here, where you think about when you're trading for high-end guys, you want as few variables as possible. When you're trading for low-end guys, you kind of want variables. You want like, hey, you know what's going to happen? Something crazy might happen. With this guy, you go through the list and say, okay, like some of the other guys, like take DJ Moore for instance. Look at DJ Moore and you say, is there quarterback trouble here? Is there an actual quarterback problem? And the answer is yes. That's a variable. With this team, nobody looks at Trevor Lawrence and says, hey, maybe this guy isn't good. Right? Like maybe this guy can't deliver the football. We all like Trevor Lawrence, right? You look at it and you say, oh, well, maybe there's another player coming back. Like you see with the Packers guys, I might be hesitant to grab them because Christian Watson's coming back. Zay Jones is not a threat to be the best wide receiver on this team. He was never a threat to take more snaps, right? So like Ridley is the top dog for what we consider to be a top passing quarterback in this league. And you can get him after coming off a really strange week against a Texans team that always kind of has the Jaguars number, right? So there are really no variables there where we can say things might just go south for this guy. I think it is a true buy low because everything is still right and there are good games coming.
Erickson, I actually want to start with you on the sell highs because you're staying with this team.
Yep. Selling high on Christian Kirk because he got the touchdown last week, but still like really underwhelming overall when Zay Jones didn't play. Like, so the last two games that Kirk has played where he's been more involved in the offense, Zay Jones has either missed parts of the game or not played at all. But last week, Christian Kirk had a 15% target share and Zay Jones didn't even play. So whereas Zay Jones, I don't think is impacting Calvin Ridley that much, I think that his presence does impact a player like Christian Kirk, who is more of a beta receiver, a slot player, a possession receiver that can come off the field when the team decides, hey, we want to run the ball a lot. We're going to use two tight end sets. Christian Kirk's not on the field. Like that's what happened in week one. So again, I think that a lot of these Jaguars players are going to be volatile just because there are so many weapons and they also use Evan Ingram a lot in the offense. But Calvin Ridley, I feel most confident about his role in the offense and him being on the field the most, running the most routes and seeing high value targets from Trevor Lawrence, like in the red zone. Whereas Christian Kirk, I'm not confident that his role is going to be steady week to week. It's been a roller coaster through 3 weeks. And like, that's not going to create consistent fantasy production. You know, in certain matchups, okay, he's going to pop, but in other games, like he's not going to be the featured piece or be the game plan. Like think about it. He's been most involved the last 2 weeks and the Jaguars offense has sucked. So why would they go back to like, all right, we got to get Christian Kirk more involved in the offense because that's going to get our offense cooking? Wrong. Like that has not been the case whatsoever. It's really been when they've been using Travis Etienne. That's when the offense has looked good. And back in week one, when they were feeding Calvin Ridley and he was being productive, like that's when you saw this offense at its peak production. So that's what I kind of expect to happen here, especially with Zay Jones getting back. I think that he does impact Christian Kirk to an extent, which is why I would probably try to sell off Christian Kirk. I don't know what the market views with the Jaguars receivers right now, whether it's like, oh, Kirk over Ridley now, like after 2 weeks. Like, I don't know where it stands, but I would be interested to see like how high you can sell Christian Kirk and how low you can buy on Calvin Ridley after 2 disappointing weeks.
Coop, you teased it earlier, and now we will get to your Nico Collins hate.
Hate is such a strong word. The funny thing is, I actually love Nico Collins in Dynasty. Dynasty's where I'm not trading him. I liked him from the start. My comp for him was Kenny Golladay, right? Kenny and people might say, oh, Kenny Golladay sucks, but there was a time where Kenny Golladay was actually awesome. Where he had 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. The kids these days might not remember back that far, but he was good with a good quarterback. And I think Nico Collins, as the quarterback play improves, will be a good player. I mean, Kenny Golladay, 6'4", 218, ran a 4.5 flat and was picked 96 overall. Nico Collins, 6'4", 215, 4.5 flat, pick 89. I mean, there's a lot of it lines up pretty well there. The thing is, this team so far, the scripts have been huge in their favor for passing. And honestly, the time to sell high might have been last week because the cat kind of came out of the bag this week a little bit. But you look at this team, 59 dropbacks week one, week two, 57. through the first 2 weeks, 109 dropbacks. That's literally double what the Raiders had. The Raiders had 54 through the first 2 weeks. So it's as if they played 4 games to only 2 for the Raiders. That's why I was buying Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. This week they come out, they only have 31 dropbacks. That's actually pretty normal, right? Have 31 dropbacks and throw 25, 28 times or whatever it is. That's a normal game script. And in that game script, you saw them spread the ball around a little bit more. It wasn't just Nico Collins. I mean, it never was just Nico Collins. Week 1, he got 10 targets, but Robert Woods also got double-digit targets. And with this team, it's the same offense that I talked about earlier, that the 49ers run, that the Dolphins run. Bobby Slowick and DeMeco Ryans come from over there. They use fullback Andrew Beck. He played 28 snaps this week. And shout out Andrew Beck, the kick return touchdown. I mean, that's like what you dream about when you're a fullback. Yeah. Like you're sitting there on, right? You're sitting there on the kickoff team, the kick return team, and in your mind, you're like, what if it comes to me and I just run it all the way to the house, right? Like for that to actually happen, that's literal dream come true stuff. But the problem when you use that fullback is now you're only using 2 wide receivers because you're not taking the running back out. You're not taking the tight end out when the fullback comes in. You're taking a wide receiver out. So if Robert Woods is going to lead this team in snaps like he did last week, if Tank Dell is going to be more of a factor as we've seen lately, I mean, Tank Dell's he looks pretty awesome, So it could potentially hurt Nico Collins. Now, I'm not saying go out and just sell Nico Collins for anything, but right now he's like in the wide receiver 1 range. And if you can turn around and get a Calvin Ridley for Nico Collins plus a little something, then I think you gotta consider those moves because they're not going to throw 50 times a week. I mean, they even said that CJ Stroud's now on some sort of arm program where they don't have him throwing during practice because he threw so much over the first couple of weeks. That right there tells you that what they were doing is not normal, right? If the quarterback's arm hurts from doing his job, that means they've been throwing too much. And I just don't think it's sustainable. They're going to have those weeks, but it can't be every week. As we saw this week when, they clearly just played a normal football game for once.
I have never felt older than you suggesting that the kids might not remember good Kenny Galladay. He was good in like 2019. That was only 4 seasons ago. So thank you for that.
Football years, that's forever ago, my boy.
Yeah, it's true. Let's actually get to our first listener question here. Is about Nico Collins. RG asks, should he drop Nico Collins for Tank Dell or just ride out Nico? So, Coop, which receiver in this Texans offense would you rather have of the 2?
Okay, so again, I'm going to admit a bias of mine here. So I got to put the caveat on this one, and I would love to hear what you guys think. But for me, if I can have and this is an old school football thought process, but like if I can have a full-time split end, a guy who's 6'4", has that full-time role on the outside with his foot tethered to the line, not coming off the field, versus a guy who's 5'8" and is, even if most of the plays he comes out for are going to be run plays, 2 tight end set type plays, if that guy's coming out, I mean, if you're sitting down there in the goal line, who are you going to have out there with your jumbo package if you can only bring 2 guys with you? Is it going to be Nico Collins and Robert Woods, or is it going to be kind of little Tank Dell? And I think for the time being, Tank Dell is going to be the odd man out for that stuff, even though he is fun and explosive and all that. So for me, it's still Nico over Tank.
Yeah, Tank Dell is awesome, but I am with you on Nico. Erickson, what do you think?
I love Nico too, but I think I'm going Tank Dell.
There it is.
My reason for that is because we've seen Tank Dell basically have 2 games where he's had a full-time role, because week 1 he was playing behind Noah Brown, who went on IR. And he's been the target leader the last 2 weeks. He's ran more routes than Nico Collins the last 2 weeks. And he's been productive the last 2 weeks, like as a full-time player. So as a rookie receiver in his first 2 games, like Nico Collins, it seemed like he was breaking out. But again, this is year 3 for Nico Collins. And he's like starting to finally break out. Tank Dell already broke out in two games, like his first 2 games. So when I'm looking at, like potential ceilings here, I think Tank Dell might have a super high ceiling in this offense, considering what he's already done in his first 2 NFL games, or his first 3 NFL games. The sample size is phenomenal. Whereas Nico Collins has been around for a while, and now we're just starting to finally see him hit. Now, maybe it's because he has a quarterback. I like both these guys, honestly. I'd like to keep both of them on my roster because, trying to parse between which receiver is going to go out this week is also based a lot on defensive matchup. If it's a strong perimeter cornerback, then Nico Collins is not going to have that great of a day. Like, and that's going to happen with some of these matchups upcoming. Like, he has to play the Saints in 3 weeks. He's going to get Lattimore. Like, that's not a great matchup for him. Against the Falcons, AJ Terrell, not a great matchup. But this week he's playing the Steelers. They don't have any strong perimeter cornerbacks that I'm afraid of. So Nico Collins could bounce back. But just going to the point, like, when these rookies start to break out, I think it's better to be ahead of the curve buying them versus waiting for the veteran players to continue to show us what they have. Like, we've seen Nico Collins a lot already, whereas Tank Dell, all we've seen is him produce. So I think if I had to make a statement right now, it would be to actually roster Tank Dell instead of Nico Collins. But at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if Nico has a better game in week 4 because of the receiver position, how it works out. So I would try to get both guys if it's possible, but if I had to pick one, it would be the rookie.
What we need is Robert Woods to just go away. Thank
yes,
you, Robert.
that would be ideal as well.
We have appreciated your career. It has been a lot of fun, and we're ready for you to just go away now. Thank you.
We're up on time, so I will squeeze in one last question here. No explanation, just give me an answer here. In half PPR, would you drop any of the following players for either of these Chargers receivers, so either Quentin Johnson or Josh Palmer, depending who's available? Are you dropping any of these guys for one of those guys? DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, Jacoby Myers, Nico Collins. Tank Dell is also available on waivers, by the way, according to this guy. But DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, Jacoby Myers, Nico Collins. Are you dropping any of them for any of these kind of hot waiver wire options this week, Coop?
So I don't think I am dropping any of those guys for those two, though the funny answer is say drop DJ Moore to add either one. Right.
Yeah.
I know it hurts, but it's kind of not crazy. Right?
He's a landmine guy that you drop. Someone else picks him.
The bonus is you're sneaking him onto somebody else's team, right? So.
Erickson, quickly, any of those guys are you dropping?
It'd probably be either Sutton or Nico to get tanked out. I mean, I don't think going aggressively after the Chargers receivers is something I need to do, but right. I don't know, like Denver, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid that Sutton's going to beat me in Denver's offense. So it'd be either him or Nico.
All right, we'll wrap up there. Thank you so much for joining us, Coop. For both Andrews, I'm Ryan Wormeli. We'll see you guys again next time.